Welcome. My name is Professor Fiske, and I will be teaching and advising and mentoring and pushing you guys through COP 2360 programming in C#. So when you first signed up for this course, I'm sure there were two different types of emotions that you felt. Either A, it was completely overwhelming to see that you immediately jumped into a complex language like C#. But the second thing I think you probably felt, if you didn't feel the first, or even if you did feel the first, is this elation that you're going to get to learn something that's really going to get your feet on the ground when it comes to becoming an actual software engineer. This specific recording, this specific lecture is Module 0. We're going to talk in great detail about how to get started and what I expect from you throughout this course. There's not a lot you're going to need, so let's get started. First and foremost, you need to know where this canvas shell is. And right now I'm using Edge, and Edge, you can actually split screen the same tab. So I'm using this feature. If you want to use it, you can click the button if you already have it at the top. If you don't have it, then I would suggest that you go into your flags and turn it on. You can do this by going into Google, typing in turn on split screen and tab in Edge. It'll show you how to do it. It's very simple if you want to use it. All right. So with that being said, first things first, our canvas shell is very simple. You're not going to see a whole lot of thrills and frills in here. Basically, your canvas shell is built to give you the information that you need and to give you a place where you can submit the work that is required of you. Right now in our canvas shell, we only have module 1. That's going to quickly change. But as we progress forward, there's some things you're going to need. Now, thing number 1 you're going to need is access to the internet. Thing number 2 is a computer of some sort. I suggest you not use a tablet or a smartphone of any kind. Using a computer makes a lot of sense. If you don't have a computer, that's totally fine. I would find a local library, or I would find the library at the HGC campus if you can, or wherever you are to get the work done if you can. If you can't reach out to me, and we'll find out a system that'll work for you. Now, you might be saying, well, hold on, Professor Fiske, don't I need to install certain applications to get this working? Well, actually, no. In this class, I'm not requiring you to install anything. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to not install anything. I am not going to teach you Visual Studio. Now, if you would like to use Visual Studio, please, by all means, use it. But this course will not in any way, shape, form, or fashion teach you how to use Visual Studio. As a matter of fact, I could care less if you learn how to use Visual Studio because it's not necessary. In this course, I would like you to get to know, understand, and become familiar with IDEs, meaning anything that allows you to develop, compile, and process your code into something runnable. And I want you to get very familiar with using GitHub. Now, in this course, what are you going to need? You're going to need access to the internet so you can get to Repl. Now, what is Repl? And this is Repl right here, Repl.it or Repl.it.com. Repl is, for the most part, an interactive development environment, an IDE, that allows you to develop in the browser without having to install anything. It also allows you to compile and share your code through the browser. One of the drawbacks of Repl is that when you use Repl, in the past, you were not allowed, or it was hard to debug. But in this case, we're going to go and build it, and I'm going to show you how it works. So what I did here is I clicked Create Repl, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in C#. Now, you can use any of the different components, any of the different REPLs, if you will, to get to the work you need to get to build the specific module you want. So in this case, you can build a Python module, you can build a Java module, you can build C++, C, the like, everything's here, but we're not going to do any of that. What we're going to do is we're going to say C#. We're going to say C#, and we are going to click that. It will give you a title. All right. Now, let me take a big step back. I apologize. I'm assuming that you've already signed up for a Repl account. You will need to sign up for a Repl account. It is free. You do not need to pay for it. I do not want you to pay for it. It is not necessary. There are situations where the Repl might throttle you because it wants you to pay for it. Don't pay for it. It's not necessary. But in this case, create a Repl. I'm not going to change the name. If you want to change the name, you can. Once you name your Repl, it is very important you keep the name the same, because once you submit to me your GitHub URL or even your Repl URL, it's very important that that name does not change. So I'm going to keep it capital glitter and commas. It's a random name in my Repl repositories. Create Repl. All right, cool. And as you can see there, it automatically went to creating the REPL. And not only is it creating the REPL, it is putting all the code files where it needs to be. And boom, there you go. The code files are there. So now if I wanted, I can run this. .NET run. What the REPL is going to do is down here in the console, it's going to run the code that's here. It should print hello world at some point in time. Because it's a new REPL, you can see on the bottom left here, it's wigging out because it only has half of a CPU, but that's totally fine. You know, once the REPL gets going, once it gets fired up, you should be good to go. So it's going to take a little while to get that running. And while that's happening, for my Visual Studio crowd, I will pull that up for you. And this is all you need to do for REPL. Now, once your REPL is built and ready to go, there you go. See, it ran hello world. And if I run this again, it should be a lot faster. But once the REPL runs and everything's good to go, you can start developing almost immediately. Now, when you submit, you see how it was a lot faster because the REPL is like powered up and it's staged and ready to go. It's a VM, really. So now what I want you to do is this. Don't change the name of the class ever, 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 ever. The name of your class is not important. What's important is the name of your REPL, because the name of your REPL is what you are going to save to your GitHub. So what is GitHub? GitHub is a code repository. And what GitHub gives us the ability to do is it gives us the ability to share code between ourselves. And it also gives us the ability to modify that code if necessary. I really want to navigate away from this page. Thank you, Edge. Wow. So GitHub basically allows us to upload our code to a repository, and we can share that repository with other individuals. So in this case, I want to sign in. I already have a GitHub. I want to show you what it looks like. So we're going to sign in. Now, when I sign in, you can see automatically I already have REPLs on I already have GitHub repositories on my left-hand side. And if I clicked on one of these repositories, it should show you a repository of code. Now, I'm using the word repository, and throughout this class, I'm going to use a lot of words that are probably extremely frustrating. You're not going to know what they mean. Please do not be dismayed. It is going to be okay. I'm going to explain what these words mean, but I want you to become extremely familiar with the words repository, directory, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, concatenation. These are all words that you're like, why would we ever use those words? Those words seem like they're frivolous. They're beyond the pale. Why would we use words that we don't understand? Fret not, my friends. This will be okay. The one thing I want you to understand is that the words that we're using within the context of this course are computer science specific. They are not proprietary, which means that when I'm teaching you how to develop in C#, I'm also, in a way, teaching you how to develop in Java as well. So when you finally take my Java course, wink, wink, you understand what I'm saying, and it's not rocket science. Now, what we're looking at right now is a repository or a collection of files. All right, we're looking at a repository, and a repository is a directory. So let's talk about this for a second. A repository is a directory, but what is the difference? A directory is a collection of files. The word collection is very important there because we use that word prolifically throughout our development cycles. Collection, a collection of strings, a collection of integers, a collection. We always use the word collection. Now, a collection is almost exactly, or if not similar to what an array is. I'm not going to talk about that right now. That's later on in the course. But understand that a collection is a set, right? A set of things. Those things, those objects, we're going to use the word object here in place of things, because that's what an object is. It is a thing. Which a whatchamacallit, a who's my what's it. It's a generic thing. That's what an object is. And an object is generic as long as we, the developer, allow it to be generic. Now, when I use the word generic, I mean that the object can be anything. Okay, an object can be a car, it can be a motorcycle, it can be a truck, it can be a mouse, it can be a keyboard, it can be anything. It depends on what you want it to be at that moment in time, right? So think about an object as a whatchamacallit, as a who's my what's it. It's nothing until it is something. Very interesting, right? Well, either way, when we talk about what a directory is a collection or a set of objects. Okay, but this is not a directory. This is a repository. Now, a repository is a little more specific. A repository is a directory, but a directory is not a repository. A repository is, for all intents and purposes, a collection of code files. That is very important. A collection of code files. We can also say that a repository is a collection of data sets, okay? There is a pattern in C# and Java that we use to get data out of databases. We call this pattern repo pattern or repository pattern. A repository is a collection of data points or a collection of data that doesn't necessarily match with the other things that are there, right? So you can think of a directory as a collection or a set of items, a set of objects which theoretically match. A repository is a set of items that may not match, but do have relationships between one another, which is why we call our code bases repositories, because not everything in this repository matches. Obviously, I have JavaScript files here. I have CSS or cascading style sheet files here. I have HTML file. I have a Nix file from Repl, so Repl knows what to do with it. These are all part of the repository. They don't match. Obviously, a JavaScript file cannot and would not talk to a CSS file without using HTML. Now, with that being said, these files are relational. They do work in tandem together. And because they work in tandem together, it is exceptionally important that they exist in the same location. Therefore, we created a repository for it. Now, I use this entire situation to talk about a repository, all to say this. What you will do when you submit your assignment is you are going to come into your GitHub, or your Repl, okay? You're going to log into your Repl. You're going to get the code working. Great, it works. All the unit tests pass. Fantastic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this to my GitHub. So you're going to come to the bottom here and you're going to connect your Git. Your Git, you will need to log into GitHub first and create a Git account if you don't already have one. Now, the reason why we're doing this, the reason why I'm forcing you to load your code into GitHub is so you can start building your portfolio. Your portfolio is what's going to help you get your first job if you don't already have one, or it's going to help you progress in your career as you gain that experience over time. So we're going to click Git. We're going to initialize the Git repository. And once we initialize the Git repository, you know how it automatically connected me? It automatically connected me. It knows, oh, hey, there's a Git somewhere. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is connected to my Git. And there it is, Francis Fiske, users GitHub. So now if I go into my Git, I should see a new repository because my GitHub's already connected to my account. If you weren't connected to your account, it would ask you to log into your GitHub. It would ask you to, do a couple of other things to make sure that it knew where to put it. But in this case, I already have a GitHub. So I'm just checking to make sure that it's here. I don't see it. Show more. CDC binaries, Java advanced. I don't see it. Let's check my repositories just to make sure I'm not missing something. Binaries, college projects. So it looks like it didn't commit. All right. So what does that mean? I connected to my repository and it looks like it tried to create a main branch, but it did not commit. So let's refresh this and let's find out where this went to. It did go to my GitHub. Okay, because my GitHub is connected to my account. So now I'm wondering where it went. Let's go ahead and push this. All right, so there's two ways you can use your GitHub. You can push code to it or you can pull code from it. And what I want to do is I want to push code to this repository. So I'm going to refresh, go back to my repository, and we're going to see where it is. It says main. That's a little concerning. I want to make sure it didn't create a repository with that name. Interesting. All right, let's go ahead and take the URL from the Git because it did create a URL, which is nice. And let's find out where that went. Nope, that's not it. The main. Just want to make sure. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, guys, I do this on a regular basis because I want to show you that frustrating experiences not only happen with you, they happen with developers who've been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. And I will tell you that this is a frustrating experience because I would like to know where that went. It says it created the GitHub, but now I don't see it. I'm glad I ran into this while you guys are on this video so you can kind of see how to troubleshoot it as well. Where did it go? Did it even go to my Git? That's interesting. Very interesting. 1 second. I don't have any pull requests. That is true. I don't have any issues. That is also true. And go to the home. See if I was trying to refresh everything to see if I got something new. I should see the name of the GitHub here. Let's search for it. Let's search for capital glittering commas. As I suspected, it is not there. Interesting. All right. Change of plans. Maybe GitHub changed things around because it seems as though I'm wondering if A, it's connected to the my wrong Git, or B, I just did a quick Google search and yeah, I did it right. So let's do a change to the code. Let's do a change to the code. Let's say hello world, that, save. Great, now I have a change. Now I have a change. I would like to push that change. There we go. Update. And stage and commit all changes. There we go. There's the update. Now let's see if it got committed. That's absolutely insane. It feels like it's not going to my GitHub at all. I'm wondering if there's a different project that it's posting to of some kind. In your case, you're not going to have this problem, hopefully, because you are going to be working within, you're going to be working within zeroed out branch, zeroed out main, everything. So I wonder if this got posted to a project instead of being posted to its own project, which would be bad, actually. I would like create a repository on GitHub. Yes. All right, so I'm going to try this, but then I'm going to show you what I did. So I came in here, I said, yeah, do that, but I feel like it's not in my repository. So I'm going to click this right here and create a repository on GitHub. Yes, that's what I want to do. Maybe that's what I forgot to do. And then now let's see. There it is. All right, there was one more step. I do apologize. So you're going to click get things changed. The last time I did this was about a year ago, and you didn't have to do all of these steps, but let's just go back to square one. I'm going to get rid of Git. So click Git, not database. We'll do that later. Click Git. All right. Now you have changes. All right. Or you have your code. Then what you're going to do is you're going to click here in the top right where the settings was, and you're going to click GitHub. Once you do that, you want to create repository. Very important. You want to create a repository in your repository based on the repo you have. Once you do that, it should show up automatically. Now, once I come over here, you see now I finally have it. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for this. And now that I have it, you can see there's really nothing in it, right? There's nothing inside it because I created a repository for it. So now what I need to do is I need to push my changes to it. So push branch as origin main, you want to do that. All right, cool. Publish branch as origin main. Yes. Confirm. You're going to push your code to REPL, and then you're going to publish your code into REPL, and you're good, right? So now if I come back in here, there's nothing in my REPL right now. You don't see anything here. I refresh. Now I have all the code that was in REPL here. If I want to update the code, right? Let's say I want to update the code in REPL. I'm sorry, I want to update the code in Git. Then what I need to do is I need to go back to my REPL. I'm going to make a change. Hello world, Francis is here. Okay, cool. I just updated my code. any change to the code files constitutes a change. All right. That change will not automatically update GitHub. You have to push the changes. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Git. Now you can see where it says review changes. It's saying, oh, hey, there are changes here, right? Once you see that, it is best practice and it's required that you put a message in your change so you know what the heck you changed. And the reason why you do this is because you're going to see a version control inside your GitHub. Let's say you made a change and you didn't want to do that change. You can revert the change. Revert means go back to the last version, okay? So it's important you write something here. Don't just go past it and act like, I don't need that. It's not important. No, it's very important. So I'm going to say, update hello world message to be specific, added name, stage. Now it's staged. All right. It's staged and it should have probably committed. I want to go ahead and say it did commit. All right, here we go. It didn't commit yet. It staged the change in REPL. So this is something you're going to do in the real world when you become a developer. And I want you guys to understand how this works. It staged the change we just made in your code, all right, on your local, or in this case, REPL. Visual Studio would do the same thing, okay? And what you're going to do is now that it's staged, you want to push it to your repository. Now, in the real world, you would have a repository of code files that is shared across your team. And there's going to be multiple folks on your team posting code to your code base. There is one more step that you're not going to have to deal with because you're a army of one right now, and that's called a pull request. Your Git's not going to have this, but a pull request is when you push your code to the main to say, I want to make a change to the main branch, then what will happen is one more step fires that says, hey, I need people to review this change to make sure it doesn't mess up the code branch before it goes forward. That's called a pull request. So in this case, we don't need to do that because, well, this is your code, so we're going to push. All right, you see how now it says nothing to push? That means that there's nothing on your local branch that you need to push to your main branch. All right, that's what that means. There's nothing on your local branch that you need to push to your main branch. So now what we're going to do is let's check our REPL to see if anything changed. So right now I'm going to check main.cs and look at that. Francis is here. The code did change and it should tell you the last time it was modified, which is 1 minute ago. If I look at any of these other files, they weren't modified a minute ago. The only thing that changes in your REPL when you post a change, or anything that changes from your local when you post a change to Git, is the thing you changed. If the thing you changed, or the thing that if anything else in your code base or your repository wasn't changed, it'll remain the same. All right. So in this case, the only thing that changed was my main. So therefore, that's the only thing that's going to update. This REPL right here, okay, when you submit your assignments, all right, you are going to submit a Word document. Let me pull that up for you. You're going to submit a Word document. Now, you might be thinking, well, what the heck, Professor Fiske? A Word document, what does that do for me? Well, if I go in, exercise 1, you will see a technical specifications document. This document is very important because this document will be your representation, a representation of your work. You're going to come in here, you're going to put your version date, you're going to put your name created by this guy with 2 thumbs, gal with 2 thumbs, this person. All right, you're going to scroll down. You're going to put a version. You please update your version control in your document so that it stays up to date. This is not for me. This is for you. When you ask for an audit or a grade appeal or anything, they can look at this and they can see it and say, yes, you did the work. You can hold me accountable for grading it incorrectly or whatever the case may be. This is for you. If you do not fill this out, you are hurting yourself. Please, for the love of everything that is holy and dear to you, fill this document out. If you don't fill this document out and you submit code files to me, I will deny your assignment. If you submit a zip file to me, I will deny your assignment. I do not want zip files. I don't want code files. I don't want any of that. This is what I want. I want this document because this document is going to point me to 3 things. All right. It's going to show me the link to your code files. Guess what? That's your GitHub. That's your GitHub. Your GitHub is the link that I want. So when I look at your code files, I should be able to go into your GitHub, see all your code files and say, this looks kosher. If I want to run it, I can pull your GitHub into my REPL, create a brand new REPL. I can pull the GitHub into my REPL and I can run it. And if it doesn't work, I can actually submit a pull request. I can submit a pull request to your GitHub to show you this is the change that you need to make. Now, obviously, if you want to do that, you're going to have to publish the REPL. And then you're going to have to make it public so that I can submit a pull request. But I will submit a pull request back if you're like, Professor, I don't know what's wrong. I will pull the code base down. I'll look at it and I'll submit the code that needs to be changed and I'll submit it back. Please understand, one thing here. I'm the software architect of this team. You are my junior developers, all right? So I want you to understand something very clear here. I'm not going to write the code for you. All I'm going to do is show you how to get through the error you're experiencing. If I see more than one error happening after I solve that piece of your code, I'm not going to solve the rest. I'm going to point you in the right direction, and I'm going to let you figure it out, all right? So it's very important that you give it a good old college try, because that's where we are, all right? So the first one is link to code files. The second one is your pseudocode. Your pseudocode is very important. You need to ensure that your pseudocode is copacetic. If you don't know what pseudocode is, there are resources online that allow you to, but you've taken COP 1000. You can't join this course until you take COP 1000. And in COP 1000, we talked about pseudocode. So if you don't write the proper pseudocode here, you're going to get points knocked off. As a matter of fact, I'm looking for very specific pseudocode specificities, syntax, okay? Code is not pseudocode. If you copy and paste code there, you will lose 15 points straight off the top. I won't even look at it. And then screenshot of your working unit tests. So what are unit tests? Well, unit tests are a fancy way of saying these are the parameters that you need to run through your code to make sure that it works right. In the not so distant future, I'm going to write these unit tests directly into your repls, and you're going to pull your REPL GitHubs from me, and you're going to do it that way. But for now, what you're going to do is you're going to take these parameters and you're going to plug them into your code, and you're going to run it. And you're going to take a screenshot of it working, and you're going to put it inside that document. You're going to do the next one. You're going to take these code, this values right here. You're going to stick it into your code. You're going to run it. You're going to take a screenshot, or you're going to take a snippet of it, and you're going to throw it at me. Very important that in your screenshot, there is something specific to you. Notice how here, this capital glitter and commas is specific to me. Nobody else is going to theoretically have that name, right? They could, who knows? But I have it. That means that when I take a screenshot of my code, I need to also screenshot something that's unique to me. This is very important. Maybe the URL is important because it matches your GitHub, your repo login, whatever. But that needs to be added. Unit tests constitute 50% of your grade. If you do not submit the unit test in your document, that's 50% of your grade straight off the top, gone, lopped off. Doesn't matter if your code works. Doesn't matter if it's syntactically correct. Doesn't matter if I can run it. I'm your architect. I'm not testing your code. You're testing your code. And you're going to show me the tests work. And if you can't show me the tests work, that means you didn't write it right. I'm treating you guys like we're in the real world. I'm treating you like you're my developers because you are. Get it in your head. You're my engineers now, and you're going to do it the way that we do it on this team because we fire on all cylinders. Capiche? Got it. This is literally all you need. You don't need anything else. But for my Visual Studio folks, all right, if you want to use Visual Studio, by all means you can. Just understand there's a lot more steps that go with it. And this is not a class on how to learn Visual Studio. I am not going to help anybody set it up. This is not that course. We don't have time for that mess. You have time for literally getting into the code. There are 14 modules, and each module is going to have 2 assignments, a module review, and something else you're going to have to do. You don't have time to worry about Visual Studio. So if you want to work with Visual Studio, by all means do it. But if that takes up all the time in this class, I can't help you. The last piece of the puzzle that's very important, and I want you to hear me out here, is that every assignment is literally due at the end of the semester, at the end of the class, not the semester, end of the class, which means that the last day of my class is the day that this is due. That last day is the day that HCC closes my Canvas shell. Now, when I say the last day of my class, please understand, and this is not in air quotes, I'm not recommending this, the last day of my class is going to float. Last semester, HCC closed my class 3 days before the last day of my class. I do not control when my class is closed. So if, like for instance, the last day of my class last semester was July the 25th, they closed my shell July the 22nd, and you couldn't submit anything else. It is very important you get your work in before that date, before the day my Canvas shell closes. So you might be wondering, hey, you know what? I'm just going to do all the work the last day of the semester. The last day of the class. No, don't do that. This is a stopgap. This is a gotcha. This is I ran into situations throughout the semester. Work got in the way. Family got in the way. Life got in the way. Something got in the way, and it prevented me from submitting my work on time, but that's totally fine. The project might be in the yellow. It might be a kind of risky right now, but if I can catch up, I don't want you guys to have to reach out to me and say my dog ate my laptop or I lost my grandmother. I don't want to hear about any of that stuff. That's none of my business. That's yours, okay? I don't want you to have to conjure up an excuse because you just didn't feel like it, because that's another reason why, right? You just didn't feel like it, and I'm totally fine with that, man. I'm human. I get it. I will grade all your assignments if you submit them to me before this Canvas shell closes. When is it going to close? I have no idea. I have no idea. It closes anywhere between 0 to 5 days before the last day of the class. Don't wait to the last day of class. I'm telling you that again. I will not at any point in time. Hear me out. Grade appeals are for folks who have gone through some really crazy stuff. I will not at all give you the benefit of the doubt if you purposefully wait until the end of the class. And I know if you purposefully waited because I can see if you've logged in. I'm only saying that because I'm your architect and I expect better from my engineers. You guys are the best. You need to act like it. I've never met you and I probably never will. But at this point in time, in my mind, you've taken that step to be the best because you wanted to be one of us. So now it's time to put on your big boy pants, put on your big girl pants, put on your big whatever pants and do it. That's my motivational speech to you guys. Hey, listen, I'm here if you need me. I want you guys to know that I'm here to help you no matter what. If you have any questions about what I just talked about, reach out to me as soon as you possibly can. Otherwise, as I say in all of my videos and all of my recordings and all the things that I do, good luck. Have fun. Ciao.